The Seiko Sea Urchin was my first automatic watch, and part of me will always have a soft spot for the brand. That might be true of you as well. So you give them your custom, as do I, but this takes the piss. Fun fact, there are only 3 species of fish that can maintain a body temperature higher than that of the surrounding water. Okay, so just hear me out with this convoluted metaphor. It is going somewhere, I promise. One of those species is the tuna. Yeah? Okay, this quartz Seiko tuna retails for £1,300. £1,300? What could you get for that much money? Well, for starters, an Oris Aquis, with a discount at an AD, of course, a Christopher Ward, with enough money left over to buy a nice Seiko Samurai, or even a smaller brand like a Formex or a Monta, who are both making very cool, very well-spec'd watches. You could also just buy roughly 1,083 tins of actual tuna. Back to that fact then, and I retract the assertion that it was ever fun. The tuna maintains its body temperature, despite the water surrounding it being cooler. So it literally thinks it's a hot piece of ass. And at £1,300, so does this tuna. I would argue that the tuna, in this case specifically the Seiko tuna, needs to cool the fuck down, and would do well to remember it's only as hot as those other fish in that surrounding water, namely those sea urchins, turtles, and samurais. Okay, I know samurais aren't a fish. The samurais who've gone swimming. So I was very kindly lent this piece for review. And this is yet another video in which I'm disappointed to essentially slag off something that may be dear to the owner. I apologise to them, but I make no apologies for saying that this watch's price is an outrage. When I told my dad I had a tuna that was worth £1,300, he thought I'd gone overboard with my weekly reenactments of classic episodes of Come Dine With Me. Little did he know, I stopped doing those weeks ago, and that I was in fact talking about this meaty quartz diver. And meaty it is. At 48mm, it's easily the biggest and meatiest thing my girlfriend has seen on my body recently, and far bigger than I expected my wrist could handle. But those hidden lugs essentially make this manageable for even those of us who aren't as well endowed as others. And I mean in the wrist department before my girlfriend says anything. It's a 22mm lug width, and the supplied rubber strap is nice and comfy, but I wish there was more than one keeper, because it kind of juts out underneath and it makes it look a bit less refined than it should be at this price. Now, interestingly for a Seiko, the bezel lines up, and thankfully the second hand hits all the markers, which is a relief for someone like me who finds that a sticking point with most quartz watches. However, for a quartz watch that costs over £1,000, you'd hope it did hit the marks, right? The stated accuracy of the movement is plus or minus 15 seconds per month. Again, par for the course really. The watch is built like a tank, and the weight is nice and reassuring. If you were an actual diver, this would definitely be a plus. I'm not going diving though, and I'm not sure a diver would appreciate the bezel on this thing. If this watch was 60 quid, I'd say that the bezel action was unacceptable. At £1,300, I'm tempted to call the authorities and report a robbery. Honestly, the person doing the QC on these must be wearing a stripy jumper, because that is shocking. There's a lot of play in it. It's nice and stubborn going backwards, but not forwards. And it's a 120 click bezel, but you wouldn't know it because there's barely an audible click, as you've just heard, or haven't, as the case may be. It's almost like that typical Seiko resistance has been replaced by, well, nothing. There's no resistance. I'm sure that's not supposed to be the case, and if not, there are even bigger question marks regarding Seiko's quality control than just the alignment. Take this diving at your own peril. And I don't know the Japanese word for irony, but having the Prospex logo and the word professional on a watch that seems to have been put together by someone experimenting with the idea of making a dive time bezel out of Lego seems like a cruel twist of irony that would be funny if it weren't for the price. This whole disaster can't even be lazily blamed on the fact it's not a Japan-made Seiko, something many use as some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card for the quality issues of lower-cost models. This has Japan proudly written alongside the chapter ring, and it's just profoundly disappointing. I should also say, I love some of the more entry-level Seiko dive watches, the Samurai, the King Turtle, but go beyond 500 quid, and recommending a Seiko feels like selling snake oil. Other people have pointed out these issues on YouTube, and I'm really not the first to bring them up, I know that. And I don't think it'll stop those who are loyal to the brand from celebrating them. Hey, more power to those people, but I can't look past this, and neither should you. Here's hoping something changes in the future and we can celebrate their models once again. Until that day, please do like this video, and I swear my next one will be much more upbeat. And my therapist says that my happiness being so dependent on my subscriber numbers is extremely unhealthy. So let's show him who's unhealthy. Please do subscribe. See you next time.